Hi everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, and joining me as usual is Mario
What's up, guys?
and Connor.
Hey everyone.
We're going to talk about a show which I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce, so I'm going to do it multiple ways here. Because it's a date, so I'm not sure if I'm meant to say out the date or if I'm meant to just say 11/22/63. For shortness sake, I'm going to continue saying it that way, but just in case you don't understand what I'm actually saying there, that's the November 22nd, 1963.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, it took me far longer than it should have done to realise that was a date. Like until it was like into the show, because I saw the title, and obviously I don't see dates like that very often over here. They're in the wrong order.
Well, yeah, that's one thing.
That's right.
If you're not American, then the months in the opposite place.
So I was just staring at it, thinking it was just three random
Wait,
numbers.
I've
for a
got a
while.
question then. Does that mean in the UK they're going to retitle this so that it's 2211?
No,
Well, I
they
think it's
can't.
because it's the books is called that, and it's
Yeah,
it's done
true.
with slashes instead of the dots, the periods.
Yeah,
It
well,
makes it- makes it
Slashes would
obviously
have
more.
made it clearer.
Yeah.
yeah, you made a mention of the fact that it's based on a book. The book, of course, is by Stephen King. It's well worth mentioning. Full spoilers for the episode. I've not read the book. Does anyone read the book?
Nope.
No.
Right, so no spoilers from later on from the book because none of us have read it, but spoilers for the episode as always here on the show. This first episode was a double. It was called The Rabbit Hole, and we're going to get into it here. So James Franco stars in this. We also J.J. Abrams is one of the main producers on the show, so nice bit of pedigree behind it. And I think first and foremost, before we get into the plot, I will say that it looks very, very expensive for TV.
Yeah, it just looks high quality.
It does.
Yep.
Because immediately I was like, this looks like a movie. I mean, aspect ratio is the same one that they use for House of Cards, funnily enough.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, I thought even that the way the opening sequences looked, just the way it was cut together, just
Yeah.
looked good for TV.
Yeah,
did.
for me, it just felt like HBO. That's what I thought immediately.
Yeah.
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 Put it that way, yeah. So right away I was kind of sucked in just by the high production value. Like, this feels like it's high quality. That's okay. Let's give it a proper chance. Let's get into it. And the plot, of course, is about a James Franco character named Jake, who is a teacher who, and we'll get into how this comes about, but he basically can go back in time, and he tries to go back to 1963 to stop the assassination of JFK. But of course, as we found out, he can't just go back to 1963. The time travel device takes him back to this exact date on 1960. So if he wants to be there in 1963, he has to stick around for 3 years, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, kind of offset by the fact that when he comes back, it'll still only be 2 minutes gone. So
True, but he still ages.
yeah,
So he could keep doing this over and over again, and to everyone else, he would age like really quickly. Like, but
2 minutes later, he's like, "Shit, you just look like you've."
Yeah, which
like
is what happened
years.
in the beginning of the show
Yeah,
with his friend.
yeah, the older friend who was away for 2 years apparently and developed cancer while he was away, and came back and was suddenly very sick. So how did we feel about before we go back in time then, just sort of all the setup stuff, how did we feel about his friend, his divorce, the opening with the story by the guy whose family was like killed?
He was a custodian, I think, at the school.
Yeah, he was on staff at the school.
yeah. That story sucked me right in.
Yeah.
It was the weird narration because it's kind of not typical.
Yeah,
How
it
you
reminded
look
me of True Detective. That's why I immediately felt like it was HBO.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, because he's looking right at the camera and he's, yeah. I thought it was all fairly well done. The actual reveal of the time travel thing felt oddly strange and abrupt, but it didn't feel like a negative so much. It was kind of like it felt like a Stephen King thing almost. It's like this small town America. Oh, there just happens to be a closet, and if you walk through this closet, you're in
Yeah.
1960.
Yeah, and it's really random, but I don't know. I
It
think
just
works
doesn't
pretty
matter,
well.
does it? It doesn't matter why it's there or
Nah.
what it is. It's just this is it.
It was
Just
just,
go
well,
with
just that's, I think that's why it works so well. I was really intrigued immediately. I like the fact that there wasn't a lot of exposition. They don't waste their time like setting up too much of what he's doing, what he's been like. And then even when he does time travel, you can get it in pieces,
Yeah.
so you don't have to sit there and just watch him talk about all he could do. Let's show you what he actually will
Yeah,
do.
because basically he does that overnight. He tells them all this stuff, but we just get it in pieces later on as he's doing stuff.
Yeah.
And we get
Smart.
the parts that we need of it, which is really good. But I think the reason why it works as well, and why it doesn't feel cheap that we don't get much of an explanation as to why this is happening, is because the characters don't know either. Like, this guy who explains everything that he knows, he doesn't know why it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just been using it. He's had it since he's had this place, but he doesn't know why. So it puts us in the same position as them. So that's why it doesn't feel, I think, too cheap.
Yeah.
So the first hour was basically all the setup, because the first hour ends with him going back for the proper time, if you know what I mean. So that he actually walks down the street and blends into the crowd.
Right. Because he goes in there, pops in a couple of times just to kind of play around with it and get an idea of what's going on. But then at the end of the episode, he kind of just decides to go for it.
Yeah, he's spurred on with the death of the guy who was going through, and it's I find it to be a really interesting show. Actually, I quite enjoyed this double episode. I'm not entirely sure how it's going to sustain another 7, so we'll see how that plays out. But I like what they're playing with. This idea that if he tries to change major things in the past, you know, the way the other character explains it, if you try to fuck with the past will fuck with you.
Yeah.
I really like that line.
That was really cool.
Time itself being the villain essentially is quite a cool idea.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I'll be curious to see where they go with it, because usually in time travel stories, it tends to become like you can't change the past because X, Y, and Z. You know. And I'm wondering if that's ultimately going to be the lesson there, or are we going to get some sort of weird ending? I mean, I've not read the book, so I don't know. Like, I'm theorizing as to how this goes down.
It's weird because it's like you can obviously change some things because he goes and carves on the tree and that changes and it's there and it's permanent.
But it
current
resets.
time.
If he goes back again, everything he changed the first time resets.
Right,
That's
right.
interesting.
I think what's gonna happen is he'll go through for a few episodes. He'll stay there and he'll make decisions and choices, and then he'll come back and think that's as good as he's done.
Yeah.
And then he'll want to try again, but he'll have to sacrifice some of the other choices that he made.
I think in this one he is already going to go back because the kid already died or is severely injured. So
I
I'm
thought
thinking
that
the
as
next
soon as he
thing-
blew all his money on the car and then the gambling, it was like, okay, this isn't lasting long. He's going to have to reset this and try again.
and try to start again, basically.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. One thing I really liked about it actually is when he does go back properly and he goes through like all the things that the guy told him to do, like go and get a haircut, go and get a suit, get a cut. I like how they actually set all this stuff up, and he's got like, you know, a social security number. He can get a job if he needs one. He has all this stuff in place.
Yeah.
That this guy set up in the 60s to help him. I also like the thing that, how do you think I kept my prices so cheap on getting my beef?
Oh yeah. I'm eating hamburgers from 1961 or whatever. So two things that I thought of though is one, this reminds me of like Agent Carter. So this is how you do the old times.
Yes.
Because there's that part where he parks and he's just obviously going to go take a leak because he's driving for a long time. Gets up, just coming from this period, doesn't even think twice about going to any random bathroom. And out comes a black person, says, hey, you're going the wrong way. And that's when he realizes, holy crap, I forgot about that. Yeah, you're right. So there are moments where you can see these things appearing. You know, the racism, the fact that, you know, women obviously weren't allowed to do as many different roles, and et cetera. And it pops up a little bit, but it's done very quietly. Because it's not done with in your face. It's not a message.
It's just showing you that's how it was then.
Yeah.
Do you know what I also liked about that bathroom bit though as well? Is I like thinking, because the one for the that said coloured, right, and there was the other one that was the white only. The colour one looked a lot shittier. There was like this wooden shack, right?
Yeah.
And I like the idea that he went to that thinking, oh, that's just because toilets in the 60s were shit. Right, I'm just going to this one. It's like, no, wait, no, the one for the white people is actually quite nice still. What,
Yeah.
You know? I like that mistake in that sense as well.
Yeah, and then the other one is, I also thought of, crap, what was it? I forgot what I was going to say. Two things I thought of that reminded me of it.
But you compare it to Agent Carter and how... I hate how Agent Carter looks, like just the visual style of it. Everything's got this sort of bloom to it because they're trying to hide things almost. Whereas this, even when it went back in time, it brightened up a little bit, but it still felt like really, filmmaking it. And
it felt real. Like I remember every time when he showed the car when he drives out of the lot, like it feels like a real street. It doesn't feel like they just closed this one street down and called in all the people that are really into like the 50s to show up with their cars and stuff. It just actually felt like a real street and felt like real people that happen to live there.
And he also went to a lot of different places. Like there was a motel, there was a bar, there was the place they started out in, there was the small home he goes to live at, there was the JFK speech, which was fairly well done as well, I thought. The idea that he's off in the distance and you don't see him properly.
Yeah.
So I'm actually quite into it. I like time travel stories. I feel like this one's got a fair bit of a grounded sort of structure to it, a grounded sense of storytelling, which I quite like so far. Because when he's getting chased by the guards because he snuck into that place, I was thinking, oh shit, if he gets thrown in jail, he's just going to be stuck in jail. There's no way out of that. None of his future smarts are going to help him with that. He's in jail. He's in jail.
Yeah. I was wondering. Obviously, this is on Hulu, so the release schedule could have been here, have it all at once, typical like Netflix fashion. But they've decided to spread it out week by week like a normal show. I'm wondering if that's because that he will be going back and forth between the past and we'll be seeing some of the same things over with slight variations. That they thought maybe if you're binging this, it'll be a bit boring perhaps to see it so close.
Maybe.
Whereas if you spread it out, it might kind of seem a bit better.
I don't know. Hulu's bread and butter is mainly people catching up on weekly TV anyway, so maybe the weekly is just more their model.
Yeah, it could be.
That's my thoughts. But no, I quite enjoyed it, and it sets up at the end that he's maybe going to go and try and stop the murder that we started the show with, which I thought was really. I felt really cheap had they set up tons of things that he could have went and stopped, but the idea that there's that one really bad thing that he knows about that he can try and stop is really interesting. I think he'll learn from it. I think he'll come back to the future and it'll have fucked things up badly in some way.
And he'll want to try again, and it'll have to reset.
He'll want to try again. It wouldn't surprise me, actually, and this is just a guess, and I'm sorry if this ends up being a spoiler, because I feel like I might be right. I think he's going to succeed at some point towards the end. But it's going to do something else that's so bad, or even not even bad on a huge scale, but something on a personal scale. That's worse for him. That the very final thing he does is go back and just completely stop himself.
No, I think the very final thing will be he's obviously getting attached to characters, like to people in 1960. So he'll just not come back. That'll be the final thing. He'll just go through and live his life there.
That's the feeling I got too.
Yeah.
Maybe. He did say the food was better. He really liked that pie.
Well, it just seemed like he's just going to fit in better.
Yeah.
James Franco enjoying a pie. Was I the only one thinking of Spider-Man 3?
Yes. We don't think of Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, you remember this scene? There's a gif of it. The gif of this was famous when he says the pie is so good. Oh my god.
I mean, I remember it, but it didn't come to my mind.
I don't really want to think about that movie.
Exactly.
I get it, but still, come on, this was a thing.
That was a low point.
That was a low point.
But anyway, this is also what the Man in the High Castle should have been. Also,
yes, I agree with that.
Because it's similar vibe, and you have obviously the crazy Nazi guy. He was as interesting as Franco is in this. So if you had him be the main character and follow his life, or something along those lines, and figure out that he can go, you know what I mean? If he had been the one that can come here and see that he doesn't have to be a Nazi, and that Nazis are kind of evil, and that's how you frame it around, that could have been really good too.
See, there's elements. If he'd done that, and then you gone, he can see our world and still believe that he's right as a Nazi. That would have been way more interesting to watch.
Yeah, and he's charismatic. He works really well. Like everything about that work. It's just, I mean, that show has elements that are really good and remind me of this show, but this is just done a lot better.
Yeah,
it is. I actually really enjoyed this first. I didn't think it was the best thing ever. I didn't necessarily love it, but I seen a lot of promise. I enjoyed my time with it. I thought Franco did fairly well. I'm sure some of the other cast members will become more recognisable as we go on because we'll see more of them. Because right now it's kind of like we've seen everyone once. I'm sure the girl that he flirted with a little bit, not in the diner, the blonde. Yeah. Interestingly, see when they were arguing about books to film adaptations, I knew he was eventually going to say one that hadn't been
Yeah.
made into a movie
Yeah,
yet,
yeah.
and I was waiting for. I was like, what one's he going to say?
Well,
And-
or how off is he gonna go?
Yeah.
With my other
Because to be fair, the one he said the book did already exist, so he wasn't.
yeah,
like,
Turing Kent.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if it hadn't been that the book hadn't existed yet, she'd just be like, "Oh, I haven't heard of that one." So it'd be fine either way.
Yeah, it has to be one where she knows the book, but the movie doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
He's only a couple of years out with that one, actually. I also liked when someone said, "Oh, I'm voting for Nixon because you can tell he's good people," and he's just like, "Yeah, sure."
What was the thing? He was eating a corn and had a Coke next to his car.
Oh, it says they can't lick our dick.
Lick our dick. Yeah, they have a lot of fun with it. I really I enjoy how, and they take the time to like show the car. He talks about the car. He buys it. He laughs at how cheap it is.
Yeah.
And like, I like that the people he talks to everywhere, including the bar, talk like regular people. And there's gonna be slang they won't understand. Like what did he say about the pie? Oh, it's insane.
Insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something like that makes sense, but it wasn't over. Like, and then with Agent Carter, I feel like they would try really hard to get into like the lingo from the 50s. It's just like they still talk normally.
It's not that different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, to go back to that dick joke, I never realised that dick was such a new term for penis. Like I assumed that was already a thing in the 60s, but apparently not, since they put up a sign that said that.
I don't know
That's
how
why
it
it became a thing.
Yeah, I mean that's why it's
So it became a thing because Richard Nixon was such a dick. They thought, that man is a penis.
Yeah, and they transitioned over. I mean, there are Richards, but there aren't many Richards that are called Dick anymore. That just doesn't happen.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So I'm learning things. Not only is it entertaining, not only is it well done, well paced, with interesting sci-fi dynamics. I love a good time travel. You can't change the past. What's the, I recently played Life is Strange, which is a video game that deals with these kind of questions. It doesn't go back to the 60s. It's only like going back like a week, but it's still, similar ideas.
Even Legends of Tomorrow is starting to play with similar ideas.
In some way, yeah. That's obviously the more goofy, fun adventure show, whereas this is the more serious drama. How does this affect?
But I like that
things?
you can take the same idea and have both.
We
sketches
forgot about the
stressed
creepy dude with the yellow card in his hat.
Ah, yeah. The
That
guy
dude's
who,
fucking creepy as hell.
He is creepy.
in fact, if there's anything in this show that I'll compare, I mentioned David Lynch when we talked about X-Files, but I'm going to mention David Lynch again. He feels like he's out of a David Lynch movie because he's the weird guy who seems to know things that's just there.
He's a manifestation of
Oh,
time
and
itself.
then the woman in the car accident, when she looks up, that was
Yeah.
creepy as hell too.
It's like time is speaking through them.
It's like you said at the start, though, time is the villain itself.
Yeah, I really love that idea. I'm going to have to read this book soon.
Do you know what I think may happen as well?
By soon he means tomorrow.
No, don't read it before we watch
Yeah,
the
No,
rest
I'm
of the
going
show.
to wait till the end of the
Yeah,
show.
because it
He's
won't
gonna
be
go
fun
to
to
sleep. We're
speculate.
gonna talk to him tomorrow. Hey Connor, what's going on? Yeah, I just finished the book. What's up, guys?
Yeah, 'cause
It's only
I
800
Damn it,
pages.
Connor.
You can do all that in a day.
It won't be fun to
See?
speculate next week if you've read the book.
No,
So,
I won't read the book till we're done.
oh, here's something that might happen. Actually, this is something that I'd predict: is that the reason why there's such a conspiracy theory mystery about the assassination of JFK is because of something that he does that messes with it.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Because they even asked like, who do you think killed him?
Yeah. And that's why it's always been this unknown thing. Whereas in this show, we'll find out that it's because some sort of time travel.
Because they're talking about how the
wackiness.
angle, the way it was shot, like it doesn't make sense. So like he might try to block the bullet, but it'll somehow like bounce off and still hit him or something.
It's time bends it, yeah.
Yeah, because he tries to interfere, but time, interferes
Bends
back.
it back.
Yeah.
It was kind of the same thing as
It's like
X-Men: Days of
Magneto.
Future Past, where they said, "Oh, it was Magneto that twisted the bullet."
Yeah. Or Xavier in Most Wanted, or whatever that Wanted.
Wanted.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, was that just a joke about how he was curving bullets?
Yeah.
That's a stupid movie. I hate
Well, and
that.
he's in that one too.
Yeah, he's in that one, McAvoy. Yeah. So, sometimes he's the pride of the country, and sometimes it's you're in Wanted. What you did in your life.
That's the low point, is it?
Look, I didn't like that movie. All right, give me peace. But no, we like this, so we're doing episode 2 next week.
I really like this one.
The more I
Really good.
speak about it, the more I realise I like it even more than I thought I did.
I think the discussing of like where this might go is actually part of the fun. It's
Yeah.
kind of a little bit like Lost in that way. We're having fun theorizing.
Except this one won't have a polar bear randomly show up.
I don't know. I wouldn't put it past it.
Nah, I could see a
Guess
polar
it's
bear
true.
showing up. That's how Time will fix it. He'll stop the gunman, but then a polar bear will just break out and kill JFK in the middle of the road.
Polar bear. Terrible way to go.
I know. Right. Alright, so yeah, we'll do an episode 2 next week. We're definitely going to do more of this. This was fun. And what I like about it as well, to sum up here, it's a mini-series. It's got a definite story they're following. It's 8 episodes, beginning, middle, and end. It'll be done at the end of this. There's no, we're trying to draw this out for another season or anything. You know? I could see them, if it's a big success, I could see them doing like a second season as like an anthology thing, where, okay, we'll do another time travel mini-series. Maybe. Pick a different date and call it. This one's going to revolve around, I don't know.
Something else. Yeah.
So, yeah, something else in the past, and they could do something like that. I don't know. But as this goes, it's got an ending. They've made one thing, is it's basically a giant movie, and we're getting part 2 next week. So, so definitely doing more of this next week. So that's episode 1 of 11/22/63.